few weeks ago, my D&D character Penelope killed her dad. But don't worry, it was just to hide him from the Demogorgon. Okay, wait, let me start from the beginning. You guys are always asking me to share stories from my home games, and I have already introduced you guys to Penelope, my deep gnome barbarian, whom I have now been playing for more than 2 years. Whew. She's one of the characters in my new line of minis, sculpted by the incredible Twin Goddess miniatures, so I figured today I could share some stories from Penelope's journey so far while I paint her mini, or rather, her 2 minis, one of her normal form and one of her raging form. If you also want to paint these minis, I will put the link in the description. Let's get started. Oh, hello, it's voiceover Ginny now. So I have a whole video about Penelope's backstory, which I'm gonna put into the cards, but the short version is that she was a mushroom farmer in the Underdark, and after killing an injured displacer beast that was attacking her village, she started developing an anger problem that also transformed her body, because she's Path of the Beast. She was afraid that she would hurt her mother or her friends, so she decided to leave home to find a cure. And the general arc of the campaign is that there are these cultists who use glass imagery, they're super evil, and we are trying to stop them. We call them the glass holes. One of our first arcs together was a little Feywild arc, and I mean literally little because this area of the Feywild existed as part of this lady's garden. So we basically were shrunk down super tiny and running around like the borrowers. It was extremely cute. We got to use some of my favorite terrain we've ever played with. Like there was a little house made out of a teapot. Our DM Jesse had just curated an incredible vibe for this setting. Like at one point we had to cross a puddle, which was a huge body of water to us, so we rented water striders to use as mounts, and the final battle was with a red dragon fly. It was a big dragonfly, it was awesome. And oh my gosh, I have to explain the mushroom hats. So my friend Laura plays a cleric named Vanya, and she and Penelope are besties. We cause a lot of chaos together, and we kept seeing all these fairies with mushrooms on their heads, so we were like, where'd you get these sick hats? And we learned that they're living mushrooms that are basically rooted into a living person's head, and they share nutrients and they can communicate telepathically, and the benefit is that when you bond with one and when you're touching the earth, like soil, you can communicate through the mycelial network with anyone else who has one of these hats. But the fairies were like, just so you know, these are living creatures. This isn't a hat you can take off. If you remove this mushroom from your head, it will die. And Vanya and I were like, yep, sign me up. And now we use them to talk shit to each other without anyone hearing us. Jesse had a name for these. I think it was like buddy caps or something, but Laura and I were like, absolutely not. They are walkie-shiitakes. So now that's their official name. So after we got back from the Feywild, there was this big event coming up. It was the Lady Ella de Malbray's birthday party. We did not know this lady, but we were invited, and we kind of were trying to get close to politically important people in this city. So we knew she was super rich, and we were like, all of the important people will be there. Let's go to this party and make some connections. Fun fact, this was the session when we gave our party a name. We named ourselves the Town Council, which is exactly as confusing as it sounds. We'll show up in a new place and they'll be like, who are you? And we'll say, we're the Town Council. And they're like, what town? This party ended up becoming the site of a pretty iconic moment from our campaign. There was this guy that we knew was the Magister Primus of the Conventicle Aeternum, which is just like the big fancy wizard organization. He was the head of it. And he was like looking at a statue of a woman and looked very sad. And Vanya walks up to him and is like, did you know this woman? And then she adds, biblically? Which for those of you who don't know, to know someone biblically means to have sex with them. He immediately teleports her out of the party. And this made me and Vanya instantly hate him, even though the statue turned out to be his dead wife, so we were probably supposed to be sympathetic, but instead we were just like, this guy sucks. And at first the other party members thought we were wrong, but 2 years later, just a few weeks ago, we found out that he's basically the big bad. He's one of the big dogs at this glass cult, so we were right. He did suck. Vindication. The drizzling rain begins to grow stronger as the road takes a sharp turn, a jagged shape looming out of the darkness. Then a sharp crack of lightning illuminates the castle. Ah! Jeez, it's pouring out here. What is happening? It's an animated scene from today's sponsor, James RPG Art. He creates a new location every week on Patreon. Play them for your party or even upload them to a VTT for atmosphere.
Okay, can I just get inside?
Sure. You enter the castle. What little light makes its way into this chapel is filtered through broken stained glass, boarded up and left to the bats.
Wow! This place looks totally abandoned.
Immersive, isn't it? Really sets the scene. The best part is, by pledging on Patreon, I immediately got access to a whole back catalog of hundreds of scenes. He has over 300 scenes from published adventures and tons of more generic scenes that tend to show up in D&D adventures.
I want to explore. Do any parts of this castle look a little more lived in?
You spot a thin bar of gold in the hallway, firelight through the crack in a door. You push the door open, and this room definitely looks lived in. In fact, judging by the way the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up, something's living in it right now.
How much was this Patreon thing again?
It starts at just $1, can you believe that?
Okay, cool. And how much to make things a little less immersive, in case somebody was scared? Like a friend.
Okay, so let's be real here. What D&D player hasn't killed somebody temporarily and then stuck them in a bag of holding in order to sneak them somewhere or get around something, right? Haven't we all done that? We've done it twice. My party has done it twice. The first time we did it was with a goblin named Mordu who was disguised as a gnome, and we needed to get him out of the city. So we cast Feign Death on him, and we put him in, this is very important here, the normal bag of holding. I say that because we have 2 bags of holding in this party. One is normal, and one is carnivorous. So if we were to put him into the wrong bag of holding, that could have been really bad. You can only put non-organic materials into the carnivorous bag of holding, or bad things happen. You know, since Penelope is a gnome, she was like, well, you're going around masquerading as a gnome, but you still have this short single name. Like, that doesn't actually make sense for a gnome. So she was like, you need more names. You need a more gnomish name. And he asked me to give him one. So I asked him to describe himself. And he gave me the adjectives small, charming, homesick, and then I guess he felt like he was being too vulnerable because he finished on well hung. So I named him Morty Wistyhearth Chatterpocket Amplewang, which is his official gnome name now. I have several notes here in my session notes that are just things that I claimed were part of gnomish culture because I'm the only gnome in this group. So here's a part where I wrote, a traditional deep gnome children's rhyme. Twinkle, twinkle, little fungus, as you shine your light among us. And then I have a note here that just says, nice to gnome ya, traditional gnome to gnome greeting. So at this point we really needed money, and there was this shopkeeper who was willing to pay us if we went out and killed and brought back some assassin vines that they could use for something. So we were extremely stupid about it. We go to this cavern where supposedly the assassin vines are, and the only one we can see is at the very bottom of the cavern. So we climb all the way down there, and then of course they all pop out of the cliff, and these were not normal assassin vines. Jesse had homebrewed these things to be way deadlier, and we nearly died just trying to get out of the cavern. And the funniest part about it is that I did like an interview with Colorado Public Radio earlier this year, and this is the session that the reporter sat in on, so this poor lady is just like sitting back and observing while we almost kill ourselves, just trying to do a fetch quest for money. Okay, we're finally getting to the Penelope dad lore. We're getting on this boat to go to another continent, and there's rumors of this legendary magic ship that's known for attacking and capsizing other ships, so of course it attacks us. We fight the crew, and they're all shapeshifters of one kind or another, and the captain is a Path of the Beast barbarian like me. And when we knock him out and he goes back to his normal form, it's my dad. And he didn't recognize me at first, so I was like trying to conceal my identity to get information out of him, and I told him my name was Polly Pocket Sized. I still think that's an incredible gnome name. That needs to be a real gnome character at some point. So as far as Penelope knew, when she was younger, her father basically was like, I don't love you anymore, peace, and just like left his family and never came back. So she's carried a lot of resentment for him throughout her life. But of course, in a classic fantasy twist, it turns out that Penelope's mom had been kidnapped and was going to be sacrificed to the Demogorgon, and her father offered to exchange his life for hers. So he basically pledged his life in service to the Demogorgon to save his wife, and then had to leave so he didn't put them in danger. His vow was that he would serve the Demogorgon until his final breath, so we were like, well, what if he dies? Does that count? Is his pact fulfilled? So we killed him and cast gentle repose on him and put him in the bag of holding. All of this was with his consent. He understood the plan and he was okay with it. He actually kind of just wanted us to flat out kill him, and we were like, no, we're not gonna do that. Unfortunately, the Demogorgon like immediately appeared to me in a dream and was like, you have something that belongs to me. So I guess that didn't work and we killed my dad for nothing. Anyway, look, we're done with our minis. So what's next for the town council? Great question. We will probably keep screwing stuff up and making terrible bargains and getting in trouble for making wisecracks about the big bad sex life. Anyway, I'm very proud of these minis. I think they came out super cute. I'm extra pleased with regular Penelope's face. Good job, me. If you want these minis or any other minis based on my characters, you can get them at the link in the description. And if you enjoyed this, please let me know and I'll try and find more ways to share game stories with you. But before you ask, I'm not gonna stream my home games. I just don't want them to start to feel like work, you know? We need to be able to sow chaos in peace.